Hello and welcome. I'm Jenny Hall. Thanks for joining me today. Today, by many requests, I am sharing a studio tour with you. This is where I create all of my projects. This is one of my happiest places that I like to be. I spend time here with not just myself, but with my family as well. My children often come in whenever I'm working and they spend time with me, and I'll show you those little special places where they like to spend their time as well. All of the things that I've got in my studio are just basic common things that you could also get from not just a store like IKEA, but I also have picked up lots of items from Target and Walmart or Staples. Sometimes I go to a discount store. We have got one here in New Jersey called Ollie's, and they will have something that's like 70% off the original price. So everything in my room is either repurposed from another part of my home and painted to kind of have a neutral theme so that it doesn't compete with any of the creative ideas and colors that go on in this space. I've got my computer set up over here, and we'll take a look at that. I have my creative center as well, and that's where I keep all of my ink storage and my markers and my refills. Everything is together, and we'll take a close look at that. I have my cutting center over here, including my die cut storage. This is my office center right behind me here. And this has office supplies and my photograph props and my printer for my office. And we'll kind of go over a little bit of that too, and I'll give you some insights as to how I choose my photo props. I will also give you a look at how I create the photographs that I share of my projects and how I get the natural light and a little hint of the tools. And most of the things that I use, you will find out along the way that I like to implement a lot of DIY. So do it myself or do it yourself is something that I don't just carry through for my crafting projects, but I carry them through my whole household and my whole life. Everything that we do as people, if you're a crafty person, then that kind of tends to carry over into other parts of your life, if you're like me. So without any further waiting, we're going to get started, and I'll start off by sharing with you exactly where you are in perspective to being the viewer here on YouTube, and how all of the things that I choose. Now, I will start off with a foreword that I am filming right now on my iPhone. I have an iPhone 10. It's not really anything fancy or that nobody else has or has not. I simply use my cell phone to film all of my videos. I do use a different camera for taking photographs, which I will share that with you, and the model and everything that I use. But you can also get a lot of the same look that I've been able to achieve with what you have on hand. And hopefully this video today will help you be able to learn a little bit more about what happens behind the scenes and maybe give you some creative ideas on your own. So let's get started. We'll start the tour here where I come to you through my videos. I thought that would be an interesting place to start. So I have a stool that I sit at, and I have a very simple white, I think it's particle board, small desk. I got the stool at Target many years ago, and the table comes from Walmart. I believe it is called a parsonage desk. I'm not very happy with the fact that it isn't too stable, but it is a nice size for my studio because I have a very small room. So here is the view in that direction, and I have a lot of things that I have shared on a previous studio video, and you'll be able to find the product links there. I'll be sure to link to that video down in the video description here on YouTube. So you can see that I have 2 lamps, and I use an Archon mount for filming my videos. I also have a small caddy, and we'll get a little closer. I have a small caddy that has basic supplies that I need to keep at hand whenever I am filming a video, and I keep those there and don't take them away from the area so that I can make sure, and I do have them available right on the spot. These lamps come from Amazon, and they are called Fovatech. And I have 2 of them. I switch them on about 5 minutes before I start my video. I have a small glass jar that collects little small pieces of paper or something I need to make sure doesn't roll off the table. I have a scrap bin hanging on one side, and my heat tool is on the opposite side. And I make sure that I've got some sunlight, but at times the sunlight competes with the lamps, and then the lighting gets a little distorted, so I try very hard to balance that as well. And this wall also carries one decoration, and that is something that I picked up at one of the On-Stage, and if you're a demonstrator and you were at On-Stage last year in Salt Lake City, then you might recognize that as a table decoration. It hangs very well. I rescued it from going into the trash, and it's just a nice pretty floral that has Stampin' Up! Artwork. To photograph my projects, I use a Canon Rebel EOS, I believe that's what it's called, EOS camera. It is a DSLR, which means digital single lens reflex, and it takes very well pictures. I'm really happy with the photographs that I take with this particular camera, but I previously used just my regular iPhone, and I find that if you only have access to an iPhone, you can get really great quality photographs as long as you set up yourself for success. So now I would like to share with you exactly what my photograph setup looks like. If you recall the black stool, so I set up the stool with one of the small 13 by 13 Stampin' Up! Boxes. That gives me a flat surface because the stool has a contour on the seat, and this gives me a nice flat surface. I take a piece of paper, and this is a piece of paper from, I don't remember where I picked it up from, but I'm always on the lookout for something that looks like realistic. I guess we would call it photorealistic. And I place my project here. I'll grab a project. I place it on this area so that the sunlight comes in and we get lots of natural sunlight. I do not use artificial lights if I can help it for my photographs, although during the winter months that's very hard to accomplish. Now, to get a little bit more light, I have a homemade light reflector that I've made out of a piece of cardboard and some aluminum foil, and I have just added a couple of layers here and secured it on the back, reinforced it, and used some washi tape and packing tape. And what this allows me to do is to redirect some natural sunlight, and I'll give you what the view is. So this would be the photograph I would take, and I can add more light. So you can see the reflection of the light. So I would work it in this manner. And that would add more light. And the photo props that I use we'll get to in a little bit. It's on another wall. But this is basically how I set up my photographs, the camera that I use, and how they are taken. Directly adjacent to my video table and close to the light source that I have with my window is my paper storage system and my stamp system. I use an IKEA Calyx unit, and that's the cube system here. And then I have another storage unit on top that I picked up from Target. I don't think it has a particular name. It's the Target brand, and this is where I store my stamps. So the way that I put it together is at the top there are two bookends, and that allows me to have a level of stamp sets at the top. There are stamp sets at the bottom, and I have more stamp sets than the capacity, so I had to come up with something a little bit more on the fly as to how to utilize that extra space there. I have this one compartment that goes right along here, and those stamp sets are turned at an angle because those are Christmas or holiday catalog items. I like to keep them separate, and that takes up some of the filler space there. I like the fact that whenever I take a glance, I can see what stamp sets I have available and kind of get an idea, and they are arranged alphabetically too. So that way I know when I'm looking for a specific stamp set, I can go directly to it. And that way also I can look at the images on the outside of the stamp, and I can kind of get an idea if I'm looking for a specific type of design. So directly below that, on the next level, is where I store my cardstock. And these are some basic paper storage magazine holders, I guess you might call them. And I did get them from IKEA, and I've got all of my cardstock in rainbow order. At the very end are the neutral colors, and the white and vanilla also included with the neutral colors. I tend to store my cardstock in the sleeve that it comes in, and if it's a multi-pack, I will remove the blues away from the reds, for example, and then I'll store the red pieces with the red colored cardstock. And whenever a package gets very low, as you can see here in my purple section, I have something that's almost completely empty, then I can notice it and see that I need to place an order for another replacement of that. I generally order my supplies at the first of each quarter, and so I'll keep a running list of what I need to add to that supply list. Directly below the cardstock is a series of 6 cubes, and the cube holders are 12 inches by 12 inches, and I believe they're 12 inches deep as well. And this is where I keep various items. Sometimes items are packed on top of each other. I like to keep everything nice and tidy, especially so that my children are not able to get their hands on anything that I would rather that they didn't, because some tools can be a bit dangerous or can get broken. So here's an example of what one of the cubes looks like inside. I have some items kind of layered upon each other, such as embossing paste is stacked up upon itself because I've got 3 different varieties. This is my current system storage for my sponge daubers. And then I have all of my smaller items here, such as snail adhesive, paper piercing mat, extra adhesives, brayers and sponges, cleaners, and different various things that we use as crafters. And this is one of the bags I received at OnStage, and this is my apron here, my Stampin' Up! Apron. I have some extra bins in the back, and those items I use whenever I need them. Now this bag gets filled up with mail about every other day, and my husband or myself take it to the post office. And then this just lays right back in. And I like the fact that I have it close at hand, that particular bin. And the other bins are very much the same. I keep my punch boards and my scoreboard. All those things are tucked away down in this type of a bin here, as well as some retired designer series paper, which that serves many different purposes. But I wanted to also highlight that I have two separate types of bin. This bin here is navy blue, and it has a design, and you can clearly see that it has a different type of a handle, and it slides in and out very easily. These are from IKEA, and I believe the name of it is Drona, and the white baskets here are from Amazon. They are not from IKEA. I was able to get a much better price on Amazon for ordering them with probably in a 6-pack. But I have to tell you, they're not as sturdy, but they do serve their purpose well. I don't pull those drawers out every day, and so I feel comfortable with them right now, but they were very economical. So in all of these little storage systems, it ends up working out. And if you did not see the videos that I created previously on the studio renovation, then my husband is the one who put all of these items together. He watched a video on YouTube that kind of gave him a little bit of tips on how to put together the storage units, and it was really simple. When you order these Calyx units from IKEA, they do not come with any of the drawers or any of the doors or any type of storage inside. It's just like the empty shell of a shelf unit. So adding to it is something that you need to customize yourself. And I have some units that we'll get to, and they have some doors, and I'll show you that in just a few moments. But directly adjacent to this on the same wall is my clock that I like to be able to have a glance at often in my craft room. And I have my ribbon storage unit, which is a ribbon ladder. I got that from joannes.com. I have some Happy Mail here on the left side that has already been shared with you guys on YouTube. And then these items over here are empty stamp cases that I keep pieces of designer series paper that need to be fussy cut. And when I'm going somewhere to, like, maybe a therapy appointment or doctor's appointment for one of my children, then I will grab my paper snips and one of those cases, and I'll have something to do, and it helps me work ahead a little bit. All of the ribbon that I have on my ribbon ladder is current, no retired, and that way I'm able to walk over and see exactly what it is that I would like to add to a project. Now this is an orchid. It is called a Phalaenopsis, and her name is Phyllis. I sometimes talk to my orchid. She is my other companion in my room. Usually my dog is with me. Her name's Katie. She's a Chihuahua, but I am very fond of this orchid, and it's been growing quite a bit. So if you saw this orchid in my previous studio video, then it is the same one, and it is doing very well. Although there are currently no flowers on it. I'm hoping we'll get some flowers again soon. I keep a pillow right in front of the radiator, and my children often come in when I'm working, and they will play on the floor, and they'll get the pillow and kind of use it to either lay down on or sit on, and you never know what the kids are going to be up to. And this is the box here that I use for the photographs. I just store it right beside the radiator and the storage unit. Also on this wall is another set of the curtains. It's like the Roman style drapes. And this is my paper cutting section. This is a really sturdy wooden shelf that my husband has had for years and years. I simply painted it white, and now I have some really sturdy surface to do my paper cutting. My Stampin' Trimmer is here, and this is a Fiskars trimmer that I use for things like chipboard, something that's really heavy duty that I don't want to damage my Stampin' Trimmer. It's also really good to have something on hand because my kids will need something here and there to be cut, and I like to use that, and I try to protect my Stampin' Trimmer as much as possible, although it does a wonderful job. I have a little scrap bin that is collapsible, and I like to add my little die cut pieces right there. It's good to have something right on hand. So the next shelf down has a supply of my handmade cards. You might see that some of them look familiar, and I keep them in order of occasion. I have a little stockpile of them here that need to be filed away, although usually they don't all get filed away, they go out in the mail. So this is my storage unit at the bottom here for my 12 by 12 designer series paper, my specialty papers. Let's see if I can show you exactly which one it is. There, I'll try to get my finger to show up. So this is the unit here that has my foil papers and my glimmer paper and that type of thing. I don't store all of my designer series paper in there together, but I have it in a couple of different places, but this is the main place. I also have my catalog mailing station here, and these are some 3D projects that I work on. I also put together pieces of designer series paper and wrap them up a little fancy and send them to my customers on occasion. And that's all stored right next to my catalog mailing system where I keep catalogs ready to go at any time. Adjacent to that shelf is my die cutting station. And I have my Big Shot that is right on top of a rolling cart. The rolling cart is from Target. It's very close to the Raskog unit from IKEA, but this works out better for me. So the top of this particular shelf is turned upside down. So this is a flat surface here, and you can see that this would normally be where you would put the container part, but it's just adhered upside down. I have all of my dies and my embossing folders together, and I like to keep them in some little bins. These are the bins that I previously stored them in, and when I got this storage unit, they just seem to fit in perfectly, side by side, inside that little drawer. I can't tell you exactly where I got those little bins from, the ones that are off-white, that are holding the dies and the embossing folders, but they did work out really well. I keep my dies alphabetically, and that way I'm able to quickly find something. And my embossing folder storage is that I place the paper insert and the embossing folder in a type of a zipper storage bag. Sometimes I use the sandwich size, and often if it's a larger folder, I'll use the quart size bag. And I also have some large adhesive strips, my spare plates such as the oh goodness, it's the magnetic plate and the precision base plate. Those things are also stored back behind all of the embossing folders. And at the bottom I have all of my punches. Now I have a good amount of punches, but I don't have every punch that's available from Stampin' Up. I like to keep them at the bottom so that the rolling shelf is grounded and it is not going to tip over. And if I place these on a shelf somewhere, I'm afraid that the shelf would get too much weight on it. So this is a nice sturdy metal rolling cart, and it works perfectly for me to be able to keep all my punches down there. And my children very much like to play with the punches. So I'll keep some paper handy for them, and they'll oftentimes come over and they'll be working on some punches and leave me some paper punches on the floor. That happens quite often, but it's okay. I like that they're playing with arts and crafts supplies and they're spending time with me at the same time. On the next wall is another IKEA storage unit. That's that Calyx unit. And on the top of this unit, I have a storage container for my silk florals that I use as photo props. There's also a wireless printer that I keep up there, and it's very handy for me to be able to grab at my workstation. So I have a mixture also of those same drawers, and at the very bottom I have one of them that stays open, and that is for some albums such as card samples and scrapbook albums. I've got a few different scrapbook albums there, some large pads of paper, and various office supplies. I do not keep too many of my Stampin' Up! Supplies in this particular unit. Mostly these are kind of general office supplies, such as spare printer cartridges and more of the label rolls for my Dymo printer, that kind of thing, and some of my general office supplies that I need as well. And here is a closer look at how I do my photo props. This is a whitewashed box that I got at Staples, and it was in the discount rack, so I was able to get something that I could also use the box for a photo prop if I need to, which does come in very handy. So in the front are the florals that I use the most for my photo props, and they are just very simple silk flowers. Here's a look at one of them, so this might look familiar. And the way I choose my photo props is I like a flower that I can get the different tones from. So this flower does not have any greens or blues or reds. Instead, it has a very deep white, and then in the center it has like vanilla tones. And so this reads as white whenever I'm taking photographs, but it also works well for something that's a little bit more on the vanilla side. And here is, here is another one. I'll show you just one more. And this is a beautiful cluster of roses, and I have it kind of trimmed down here. It's very lightweight, and I believe I got this from Pier 1. And these have touches of green in them, and so if I have a card that is white with just tinges of blue or tinges of neutral colors, then I often will grab this particular set to do my photo props, and that will kind of bring out different colors in my project. Another one that may seem familiar to you is this cluster of flowers here, and that's also on a large bush. The printer that I use is just something I got from Walmart on sale. It's a Hewlett-Packard. It's called DeskJet 3752. It has capabilities of more than just printing, and I like that it's wireless, and I can put it anywhere that I can plug in, and that way I'll be able to maximize more space. So I sit at my workstation that's right next to this area, and I can print and just reach up my hand and grab what's come off of my printer. The last area is probably the largest wall in the room, and it has my workspace, my ink storage, all my color storage, and this is where I spend most of my time. There is a decoration on the wall, and this is a banner that I made that says Create. I have blogged it before, and you can find that information on my blog. If you just search for banner or large letters, you could find it that way. It has rainbow colors. I apologize if the light's a little distorted, but that's the natural light competing with the lamps in the room. I have a beautiful little porcelain flower that was a gift from a dear friend of mine for my birthday last year. there is a very small air plant and some cards that have been sent to me. A card I've made myself, a gift from my children, a little candle wax melter thing. Whenever I got my studio, they gave me a gift. And there is a small little wooden, like a pallet stand that has a beautiful little saying that my children also bought for me. And this is also where I keep my camera out of reach of children and my USB microphone that I use for voicing over my videos. It hooks up to my computer with a cord, like this. And this cord plugs directly into my computer on one of the side ports. And then that allows me to sit at my workstation and be able to do the voiceover of the videos. So this in particular, while we're here, is my workstation. I have another one of those same IKEA units, but it's turned on its side. If you can see the view here. And this is where I keep my color storage and my workspace as well. And I work on a folding table that you would normally see like at a picnic or somewhere like that, that was just picked up at Walmart or Home Depot, some kind of big box store. And it works fine for me. One day I might upgrade, but for now this system works well. I have my sewing machine down below and a laminating machine, thread storage, and a small stool that my children like to sit on when they sit next to me sometimes. The little dog bed here is for my little companion KK. And I have some paper projects and some sewing projects that I keep up with, as well as an old shelf unit and then a bazillion paper pumpkin boxes that one day will make their way out of my office. So this is the workspace that I create on, and as you can see, I keep my computer here, and my little area is very small, but it works out really well for me. I have another one of those foam large pieces that I place a grid mat on, and this is where I create my projects that do not have a video. There's an OT light that's right beside it, and it's an LED OT light, so it doesn't get hot, but it has a nice bright light. And then I have some doors on the IKEA unit, and this helps to keep more items away from little fingers so that they won't get them. And I like the fact that I can tuck things away as well. These units here are from Stamp and Storage, and I did not yet paint them. I would like to paint them white, but I have my ink pads stored by color family. But one day I'm going to rearrange them into rainbow storage, but they are rainbow descending. The descending colors are rainbow, but I have them separated into family. And then right next to this area here is my Stampin' Write markers. And so I have them in the case that they came in. This set is called Many Marvelous Markers. And I simply just slid forward the little case that it belongs to. And it sits perfectly where I can just reach up and grab them. I have a current catalog here and a current holiday catalog so that I can, as I'm working, reach up, and I do that many times a day, reach over to grab some codes or something. I have another storage unit here. This is an old storage unit that came from a craft store that I had a big discount coupon on. I've had it for quite some time, but it works really well to hold my Stampin' Blends markers. I also have some other miscellaneous coloring items such as watercolor pencils, my embossing powders so that my kids cannot reach it, and my Stampin' Scrub. I've also got my Brusho and some miscellaneous pens and my in-color markers here as well. And this is also one of my this is my workstation. So I have my different planners here, and I keep some notepads, and this is my office storage for some records. Inside this particular cubby is my scrap bin that I just toss as I'm working. I just toss in a piece of scrap that I want to use for another project inside, and these are just little bitty tiny knobs. Inside this one is another case where I keep other miscellaneous things. One of the drawers is dedicated to office supplies, Band-Aids, stamps, some whiteout, that kind of thing. And then I have two of them that they have embellishments. This is where I keep all of my embellishments. Also inside are my stockpile of cards that have not been blogged, but that I want to blog very soon. So if I make them for a design team that is such as Split Coast Stampers, and I'm not allowed to blog them until my time is done as a design team member, then I can save them in one central place, and I can now pull out a card and be able to blog it. And these are very easy to open and close, and that way it keeps everything nice and tidy. So the last piece I have here is my ink refill storage, and it is on top of an IKEA shelf that is made to fit directly into this size of cubby. And my ink refills are stored rainbow order from left to right and rainbow descending, and I have them on a 3-tiered acrylic holder that I believe is made to hold nail polish. And they work out really well for me, and that's something that I can keep at hand so that all my coloring tools are right here for me to be able to grab as I'm working. I also use a Dymo label printer, and it has 2 ports to be able to print out any kind of a label. I simply use this little cable here to hook up to my laptop. My laptop that I use is a MacBook Pro, and I can print out some labels, and here's how it works. And that's just an empty label. If I'm using something on my computer, then I hit print and it prints out a label. It's like magic. It's wonderful. And this is basically my studio. Thank you all so much for joining me for this long overdue tour of my studio. This is where I do all of my creating, and this is probably one of my most happiest places in the whole world. I love to be able to share this with you as well. Thanks for spending time with me, and if you have any questions about any of the different things that I've got in my room that you might be interested in for your craft studio, then just leave me a comment below, or if you like something in particular, I would love to hear from you in a comment and see exactly what your thoughts are. Thank you again for joining me today, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.